All righty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. All right, guys, pretty interesting day. If you were following along with yesterday's video, then we knew we were right underneath big resistance. We were right underneath those 21 EMAs across the board. And we did look like we could start breaking down. We're definitely going to be on the cautious side of things. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, all right, weekly bullish candlestick last week. If we are going to sell here, I think it's probably going to be for a higher low. So that is going to be, my base case over here. That's what I am going to be, that's where the bias is going to be. I think we're pulling back for a higher low before we end up going higher. Where do I think we're going in the end? All right, up here into this area. I'll put this guy back on here. You have the 200 MA sitting here. You're going to have the golden pocket sitting there. All right. But for the time being, we're pissing as many people off as possible over here before that move actually happens. Because of the weekly bullish candlestick that we have on almost every single ticker here, I don't think we're going to immediately come back down to take out the low. I think we're going to, get the higher low over here, and then we're going to be pushing up, and we're going to have the weekly moving averages sitting over here as well. You got the weekly 21 EMA. You're going to have the 200 DMA over there. You're going to have the 0.618 to 0.786 Fibonacci retracement over there. A lot of confluence. You're going to have where you broke down. You could really take off this level and just make it right over there. All right, where you broke down from. This over here where I'm highlighting in green right now, this is the confluence area for sellers. Okay, it's not right here. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you right now. All right. If you are short in this market right now, I am just saying the market had a ton of fear. It got a ton of selling already. We don't have the look over there on the weekly chart to just sell down to a new low. So expect a higher low. It doesn't have to be the case, but I'm telling you right now, the odds are that you get the higher low. So that is going to be the base case. Okay, so there's that. Now, we talked in yesterday's video how VIX was coming down to this area it likes to be bouncing at on the 4-hour RSI. It's either going to be done around 36 like we got going on here, or it is going to be done in oversold territory. All right, so I'm not saying VIX is going to go on this massive spike here. I was just kind of looking for it to bounce. Once we retested 28.32, we were coming to a very key spot. This is where we exploded before the thing went from 28 to 60 bucks. Okay, it went up 100% from there. We are probably going to be getting a reaction down here, especially if we're getting these oversold conditions. Now, coming back over here to QQQ and SPY, guys, I know things look ugly. I know we're pulling back, but at the same time, like I pointed out at the very beginning of the video there, we have a massive weekly bullish candlestick going on here. Those typically aren't just going to be faded right away. They're just not. All right. So, even if we get chop, and then we go lower, it's still better than you trying to short here, getting frustrated, sitting through the chop for it eventually to go down. But by that time, maybe you get frustrated. Maybe, you even take the loss or you're just frustrated. Okay. So don't stress yourself out in this market. It doesn't have to be like that. Okay, you don't have to be putting on trades unless the setup is, really presenting itself to you. Like me personally, just coming into today, I'm trying to keep my option trades really tight right now. I'm trying to, just be in and out, just focus on a good few setups here and there. And yeah, I'm just trying to take my money and get the frack out. A little do I know, holding overnight, it probably would have, paid over 100%. Okay. But at the same time, I'm not going to complain about a smooth 50 to 60% over here. All right. You had the setup over here for this thing to start fading over here. It can continue fading, but at the same time, we do have these massive weekly candlesticks. So we don't know if that's going to be the case. But if the market is going to continue fading over here, your prime contestant for making a new low, while everything else does not make a new low, makes a higher low, is going to be Meta over here. But, like I just pointed out, that shouldn't be the base case because of what we have on those weekly charts. Okay. Now coming over here to SPY, we have the 2-day range here. All right. You had yesterday's range, and then you have today's inside bar that we did not break out of yesterday's range, guys, and you do not want to be trading the inside day. The inside day is going to be filled with this crap. All right, it's going to be filled with this crap, and I promise, guys, it's going to be more frustrating than not. And guys, I could also show you right here. you knew the whole time over here that, oh, you're bullish, you're bullish, you're bullish, you're looking for longs. And then you see the clouds start flipping over here after you knife down. You get the retest here. And then, although it was chop, it's still chop. Keep that in mind. You still ended up, seeing it in real time over here, flip from bullish to bearish. Okay. So you could have been taking these long scalps and then, short scalps. And I'm not going to just tell you like it's easy like that. Okay. It's not. But at the same time, if you want a tool to help you out, I'm showing you right here. It's called EMA Trend, and you can use my plugins right here. I just literally have the 5, the 9, the 21 on. You can put whatever moving average you want, all right? But that is what I have gone back and back tested with, and it is a very useful resource over here if you are trying to avoid being on the wrong side of things, okay? As far as support and resistance goes, guys, you have 533.50 right over here. Now you are, currently gapping down in the after hours here. NQ is down 1.4%. I'll just show you the game plan over here on NQ. All right, guys. So this is the area you're going to be watching: 1864.75 up to 18.795. If we gap down underneath this, okay, here's your potential setup. Now I'm going to come over here, guys. We have Papa Palace speaking tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is very likely going to be a volatile event. Okay, so if we end up falling down into this area over here, the prime area that we're going to be looking for that higher low in between, 314 and the 0.618 fib at 430. Okay, if we end up getting that into that event, then who's to say Powell is not going to pump us back up, put in a nice lower wick, and there we have our next higher low before we come back up. All right, just keep in mind, guys, the market is consolidating, getting ready for that next move. I talked about in yesterday's video. I said, hey, be on the cautious side. We have stuff suggested right now for the options market. Okay, like calls, either price is going to be moving down and your calls decrease in value, or VIX is going to come down and maybe your calls don't decrease, but they're certainly not going to be moving too much, even if the market goes up in your direction. All right, but like we were pointing out, that was the spot not to do things in. Now on the higher low. Now, if you want to put on some long risk again, that is going to be a thing to do so. Now, I'm going to point out right here, you have this gap open, all right? So, I went over the last like 4 to 5 years, guys. We only had a few of these gaps. So we're talking like probably like 10 to 15 that were just left open. Maybe 20, okay? And most of them within a few trading sessions, just like this guy over here, like you can just look back. You really don't get a lot of these gaps left open. And if you do get them left open, they get you come back in that direction over the coming trading sessions. We're going to say 1 to 2 weeks. You're going to come fill those bad boys. But you can look back and over here you left it open over here. You at least attempted over here. There's not many that didn't get filled. Like this one, it didn't get filled, but you came back for the attempt. So if this gets left open over here and we end up down here, then this is just something that adds confluence to our higher low idea over here for the buy the dip. All right, so just something I was going to point out there. All right, but if you can get back above here, that's where you're going to be looking for long scalps. But at the same time, let's come over to the 4-hour time frame there. All right, if you open down here and you come into this is literally where your low was. Okay, all day yesterday and today. Okay, right over here. So if you come into this area, I don't know if it's going to be right here. I don't know if it's going to be over here. That is what you're going to be looking for. So that is your short idea over there. You're looking to long over there. You get the same exact look over here on ES. I'm just going to point out a bunch of rejections off of that 21 EMA. We still haven't came up to test that 200. That's what I was pointing out in SPY and QQQ. I think that's going to be the case. All right, we got a lot of confluence going on up here. I think it's very likely going to be the case that we get back up there. Okay. But same thing over here on ES. If we open down, you guys say, hey, maybe the volatility is coming back over here. Maybe we get another 2 to 3% gap down. All right. If you do end up retesting this zone over here, which is going to be 351 to 379, if you retest there, expect the rejection there. Whether it be up here, whether it be over here, you're going to be looking for your smaller time frame short setups there. All right, for your shorts. And then, over here, this is where you want to be taking your risk off. Do not be a greedy little pig. Okay, that is 70 points right there. That is quite some money if you are catching that short, and you don't have to catch the whole pie. You can just get your piece of the pie and you can have a good day. And guys, in this market, okay, if you catch the key piece of the pie, like this is my attitude today. This is my attitude the other day. If you catch your piece of the pie in the morning, you know, it's not the worst idea to just walk away. Okay. If you're up a couple $100, you know, if you're up a grand, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. If you catch your piece of the pie, I'm telling you for a fact, it is a volatile, choppy market and it wants to take your money. This is an inside day right here. This is literally when you get the volatile chop. We're now getting the breakdown of that range overnight. Okay. So like it is definitely a market trying to take your money, whether you're trading options, whether you're, you know, just trying to scout, whatever it is, just realize if you are sitting there over trading, you are going to be playing into their hand. We do not have a setup to really be moving over here. It definitely wasn't the long side. So just keep these in mind if you're trading this market, guys. Don't drive yourself nuts. Do not. Okay. All right. Now, as far as levels go over here on SPY and QQQ, we're going to be paying attention to 536.81. There, we'll just come over here just so we see the hour after hours over here. Okay. 536.81. We got that going on. If you pull, you know, come back up, retest that. That was today's low. So we are going to see, you know, if you get sellers stepping off that. But support is 533.50, 529.71, 524.98, and 518.36. Don't expect to come all the way down here, but if volatility is coming back, we'll see what happens. All right. Now, as far as what we were talking about over there in ES and NQ, that would be the equivalent of coming down here to 525. Okay. 525 all the way down to like 522. That is where that, you know, confluence spot over here is. And I'm not saying buyers are going to step in over there, but that is going to be a key spot right here. Okay. That is where you really broke up from. I know it looks pretty choppy, it looks pretty crappy over here, but in reality, both stepped in over here. They defended and you pushed back up, but we did not make the new high. All right. So yes, you have a higher low here, but you have a lower high. So price is 100% just consolidating. You know, I'm not a hippie, okay? But I talk about this sometimes, right? It's just, you know, gaining that energy, it's storing the energy, and it's going to release the energy on that next move. You don't want to be involved too much when it is storing that energy. You want to be, you know, in a moving market, and that is not going to be the case when we have the setup we had. That's why we talked about it yesterday, and today just kind of added to that. You had a straight up inside day. You know, if you weren't taking out the high, you weren't taking out the low. Hey, odds are a chop. Okay. That's that over on SPY on the downside. On the upside, like we were talking about 536.81, we're going to be watching for the reaction off of that. If you can get back above it, guys, I'm not going to tell you just to be sitting there long. Okay, I'm not. You have like crazy resistance over here. I don't think this is the place to be long. I think we're looking to long that higher low. Okay, but I do not think it's the best idea to long right into resistance here. And you know, even if you come back into this area, this 2-day range here, until you can take out the top of it, which is 544.28, don't expect for buyers to be in control. They're not. Okay. So, you know, take your profits quick in this market. I'll point out some trade ideas we're watching over here. I pointed out the game plan over there, ESNQ, SPY over here. But above 544.28, you're watching 549.68. And that's another big heavy spot. So like, I'm serious. If you're buying this dip with me down here, hey, all right, be quick on your profits over there because we definitely still have that heavy upside resistance there. All right. Now coming over here to QQQ. All right, we'll come down to the hourly time frame here. We'll see where price is sitting at right now. All right, so resistance 452.63, above there 455.59. Expect sellers off of that if you retest this. This is where, you know, this is where we weren't breaking down from. I was waiting for the breakdown and we didn't freaking do anything all day. All right, you know, we closed at 457.99 and then and after hours we peaked down to like almost 450. Great. All right. You know, that's the market we're in right now. You got to adjust to it. And I was vocal about it. I've been vocal about it, but definitely in yesterday's video, I put some time into talking about it. You're going to have time to put the same exact capital to work in a better environment. So honestly, like take the base hits. All right. Take the small capital gains there for the time being, because, you know, as far as swings go, I'm telling you, this is not the environment to be swinging options in. Okay, so there's that. Like, you know, I want to swing puts today. I really did. I just saw what was going on here. I saw the weakness going on here. I saw the Mag 7 stock starting to break down. I decided not to. Why? Because we have these massive weekly bullish candlesticks. This is a recipe for some volatile, like choppy price action. We don't need to, you know, be having odds against us. We just don't. All right, but Papa Powell, like I pointed out, Jerome Powell, he's speaking at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. All right, you got another Fed speaker going on, so that is probably going to be moving the market. All right, a little brief introductory thing over here, or not introductory, but a little intermediate break over here from Spine QQQ. We'll talk about just some unusual options activity that came in today. AMAT over here, guys. All right. Well, not today, but recently over here. I was just looking through flow. But this is something I actually do like the chart over here on it. So if you are, this is a long-term idea over here. But you're reclaiming the 200 weekly MA right here. You got this key level you bounce off of 124.92. I think this guy is going for the retest of the 200 MA up there. Okay. That is what I think these big boys are heading for. The other one is Oxy, guys. All right. We got a decent buy off of Oxy today. I think it was 1.5 mil. Key spot. This is right where Warren Buffett back in the day pumped the stock and then it went up 100%. I remember it because I remember trading it. And, I missed that kind of price action, guys. The crazy 2021 into 2022 price action. Obviously today, these times are pretty freaking nuts. But, if you're trading back in the market with me, yeah, everything was just kind of skyrocketing and going crazy. Like, you think this is just an overvalued market right now? I'm telling you, you just had like crap companies going from like $2 to $100 back in 2021. And yeah, you just find one that didn't have a bad chart, and it was only a matter of time until Wall Street bets or someone's pumping it, and then boom, it's the next big thing. All right, everything was going back then. I missed that market. I don't know when we're going to get that market again, but I'm definitely going to be more prepared this time around to take advantage of that market. As that's really the market I started in 2020, but that is really the market that I got addicted to options, stuff like that. That's where I got my first initial big gainers over there. So I'm excited to get that market again, but I'm telling you right now, it's not here. Let us know when the market's getting hot like that again, and I haven't seen it ever since then. I really hope I get to see it over the next few years, because that is the type of market where you can make some, consistent small bets in a trendy market, and you could hit it big. All right. And that's kind of tying into what I was saying before, guys. We're going to have the easier market where you're going to be able to use the same exact capital you got right now, and you're going to have odds stacked in your favor. And I'll let you know when that is, but it's not right now. Okay. But, I like Oxy over here. It's been basing out. And, I think someone is playing for that move back up to 45 over here from this key level. It's not looking too bad over here, okay? But coming back over here to QQQ, well, those levels we're going to be paying attention to. On the downside, we have 450.82 underneath there, guys. This is kind of a spot you want to be holding. But if you don't hold there, we're talking 443.06, and this is the same spot on NQ and ES that we were just talking about. All right, this is prime area for your higher low over here. 1 hour RSI. If you get down here, it's going to be either building out a bullish divergence, it's going to be deeply oversold. All right, 4 hour RSI, it's going to come back over here. Okay, you are really going to have things lower than where they are right now. Option prices are going to come down, and for a fact you're not longing into resistance. And then you also know for a fact those weekly candlesticks the last week do not suggest we're about to take out the low right away before really pushing past that week's high, like straight up. This is not typically what you see after you get something like that. You typically are going to see these fall, but bullish price action, at least for the next 1 to 2 weeks. All right, so that is what I'm going to keep the bias here, and just know you don't want to long into there. But if you're longing down here, I know it's not all the way down here, but you don't want to get back down here. If you get back down here, you're probably going to take it out. All right, so I don't think that's probable. So if we're not going to come back down here, which at that point you come back down here, it's going to be right here. All right, so that's where the confluence is. That's where the whole idea comes into play. On the upside, we're talking 452.63, 455.59, 460.07, and 462.38. Until you can get above 462.38, okay, and then you play for this move up there, I'm just going to say be quick on your, on the long side up there. If we don't get that, if you're not buying down here, okay, because in reality, you still have a higher low, but a lower high. All right, so the market is still just condensing here, consolidating, waiting for that move. All right, so VIX, we'll just point out over here, you printed a doji candlestick off of our 2832 level over there. I did point out the 4-hour RSI getting oversold. Yeah, it wasn't oversold, but I was saying, okay, if we come down here, it's probably going to get pretty close to where it's been bouncing back at, or in oversold territory. We didn't get quite down there, but you did get a picture perfect bounce off 28.32. Guys, who the heck is telling me, or anyone, or you, that you can't do TA and the VIX? I prove like nonstop that we can do TA and the VIX. It's one of our main tools here on this channel, you know, as well as just in my trading. I love using the VIX just to have that extra insight there. Anybody who's telling you that, just understand they haven't gone back tested the VIX. They haven't traded the VIX. They haven't done all of these things with the VIX. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay. And I'm not calling them dumb or nothing like that, because there's people that have been this, you know, for freaking 20, 30 years. And I know for a fact they don't trust TA on the VIX. But I'm telling you right now, I have proven time and time again on this channel that you do TA on the VIX. When this channel first came about, all we did is cover SPY, QQ, and VIX. Why? Because that was all we really needed in our equation. Okay, so that's VIX. You're at a key spot here. I'm not saying you're going to hold it, but it's definitely a key spot where you've literally exploded out of, and you're coming into that weekly 9 EMA. We'll see what happens there, okay? All right, now IWM actually was the most bearish today. You had the most bearish flow going on. And then, you know, we can see you're starting to puke in the after hours, all right? But, you know, what really puked in the after hours over here, we're talking NVDA. Okay, we're talking NVIDIA. 4-hour cloud, it's starting to flip bearish over here. It's either going to be a fake out and we're going to get that scenario over here, or we're going to break under 104.77 and come down to 113 to 97.40. That's going to be your demand zone down here, 97.40 to 113. Doesn't mean you hold there, but I'm telling you right now, with those weekly candlesticks, even though you got this bearish news going on over here on NVIDIA that absolutely tanked you, you know, what, 5-6% in the after hours. Okay, even though you have that going on, okay, just realize you still have the potential here for the inverse head and shoulders. You still have that, you know, massive bullish, you know, candlestick over there on the weekly time frame from last week. All right, so, you know, if you are shorting with me over here and you're taking this, okay, like I said earlier, don't be a greedy little pig. Don't do it. Be a greedy big pig. I'm kidding. But just don't do it in this market. It's not worth it. You can easily take the base hits, stack your capital, and then when we have the clear opportunities, you pounce. Okay, you pounce, and you can take on larger swings at that point in time. But right now, you know, I just don't think it's a good idea to be, you know, sizing up too much. And if you are going to size up, hey, I think it's definitely a good idea to be quick on them profits, okay, or keep your tight stops. All right, I got stopped out of Meta today. I got right back in not too long, you know, later, and you know, we pulled out a banger. Okay, you know, over here on the video, guys, it's the same thing. You catch that move over there, it's not looking too bad. Okay, but you know, these are the scenarios you're going to be looking for, the retest of that 4-hour, you know, EMA cloud, which honestly, guys, just put on the 21 and the 5 EMA or the 9 EMA on your chart, and you can easily follow along with that, what I have on my charts, without having the cloud there. But I think it's a very nice visual here just to see when it is flipping bearish or bullish. It's either going to be here and we're going to get above it. You're going to fail the retest over there and you are going to, you know, get back above it. All right, it's going to flip bullish and you got this little, you know, crappy consolidation, you know, going on over there. Or this is my plan, okay? I want to see a retest of 107.48, which is going to be around that cloud. And then I want to see 104.77 break. And from that point, I think we could see the flush down to 113. I know that would be a 10% down bid day on NVIDIA. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but this is going to be a decently ugly gap down. So if we come back up, we're going to expect the sellers to step in there and shove you back down. All right, so there's that. Next idea over here, it's going to be Apple. All right, we're going to be watching that 194.78 spot over there. All right, everything's kind of starting to break down from these little ranges you got going on in the after hours and the overnight session. You know, NASDAQ over here is down 1.5%. ES is already down 0.9%. So these things are going to be significantly down by the open if these things hold, okay? We're going to be watching 194.78. That is the confluence spot. That is where you broke out over here. That is where you have the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement. And, you know, on top of that, you got this inverse head and shoulders pattern. This is kind of like I pointed out, this is where you broke out from, but this is where you had a lot of the action going on. So we're going to expect buyers over there. And that's as simple as that. Okay, we're going to look for buyers. You see the move I got marked out right here. Options expiration, we're talking next week calls, $5 move. You're getting anywhere between 70 and 90%, depending on what strike you're going with. May 16. All right. I know the premiums are going to be pumped for earnings over here. And, that's not necessarily a terrible thing. Okay. Maybe less movement over here on options in this environment is much better. And you're buying at a much better price than just buying straight into resistance like you were over here if you're trying to long that. So, good price. Options might not move so much if you're buying past earnings, but they will be safer. And if you catch that $5 move, you still can catch a 45 to 50% move. Okay, so that would be 195 up to 200. You catch that move, that's still your 50%, even on the May 16 expiration. All right, there's that. All right, guys, so that is what I have for you guys in today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please remember to leave a like on the channel. I really appreciate what you guys did yesterday. We haven't been getting too many likes. We haven't been getting too many new subscribers. I really kind of been wondering what we've been doing wrong. I'm going to try and just, shift over here. I mean, in the Discord, I'm going to have, just pretty much everything. I update all the tickers that we got in the YouTube, videos and stuff like that, what we've been doing, as well as, trade ideas going into the day, as well as, the live trading. But over here on the channel, I'm going to really just be sticking to SPY, QQQ, VIX, and then I'll give you guys one or two trade ideas into the following trading session that I'm going to be paying attention to, okay? And I'll try and go over NQ and ES over here. Run out of breath. I gotta drink water. I gotta go to the kitchen and get some more water though. But yeah, I'll try and cover NQ and ES. But at the same time, it is a lot to juggle over here. I'm gonna do my best to keep these videos. We're talking 10 to 20 minutes. I know today is a 26-minute video. I want to talk about some things, but that is going to be the goal. So if that sounds good and you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. If you got to the end of the video, I'm guessing you got some value out of the video. I know there's some pretty darn ass decent insights in each of these videos. So I hope you guys are enjoying them. And with that being said, guys, appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.